Hello class, this is Demetrius Wilson with BA 156. We are now on Chapter 6, Business Communication for Success. Chapter 6 is all about writing. Our learning objectives for Chapter 6 are understand how to develop and organize content in patterns that are appropriate for your document and also your audience. Demonstrate your ability to order, outline, and emphasize main points. Got to get emphasis on those key points in one or more written assignments. Demonstrate how to compose logically, organize paragraphs, sentences, and transitions in one or more written assignments, right? You want to transition from one topic to another. Demonstrate your ability to prepare and present information using a writing style that will increase understanding, retention, and motivation to act. And when we say retention, we mean that if you have 100 things to say, that hopefully they understand and remember a majority of those, let's say 90. Everybody can't remember everything, but the retention we want to increase. We want to remember 90, not 60, and 90 or 80 versus 30. Additional learning objectives are demonstrate how to form a clear argument with appropriate support to persuade your audience. Recognize and understand inherent weaknesses and fallacies, right? Things that are told that are untruths. Understand the difference between paraphrasing and summarizing and plagiarism. Demonstrate how to give proper credit to sources that are quoted verbatim and sources whose ideas are paraphrased and summarized. Or summarize. Demonstrate your ability to paraphrase in one or more written assignments as well. So organization, purpose of business writing, to communicate facts and ideas, not concepts that may or may not be true, but you want to communicate facts and ideas. Each document must address the following basic elements: who, what, when, where, how, and why. And we talk about this in your homework assignment all throughout the course. Another way to approach organizing your document is with classical proofs known as ethos, logos, and pathos, and we discussed those last chapter as well. As business writing, a project needs to convey some central idea, right? There has to be some main theme to it, and that would be your thesis statement. Clarifies the idea in your mind and make sure it comes through to your audience. Should be short, specific, and to the point, right? Not too elaborate. Very specific and to the point. A thesis statement should be a declarative statement, be a complete sentence, right? Not just, it shouldn't be a run-on sentence one, and then it also shouldn't be just, a summary of small, short statements either. Use specific language, not vague generalities. Be a single idea. Reflect consideration of the audience, so know and understand who you're speaking to. Organizing principles, it might be organized through time, chronological, comparison, comparing A to B, contrast, cause and effect. A happened, so then B and C happen. Problem and resolution, this is a problem and solution. Could be problem and resolution too, but problem and solution. This is a problem, this is how we fix it. Classification, biographical. Space, ascending and descending, psychological, elimination. Example, process, procedure, point pattern, definition, testimonial. These are all different types of organizing principles, ceremonial, all different kinds. So this outline, this is just here for you to know and understand, like, hey, here's the body, it's the main point, sub point 1, and then specific information. Then you have main idea, point 2, sub point 1, and then specific information. Then you have main idea 3, right? So you know and understand this is how you, show and group the introduction, how you show and group the body, and how you show and group the conclusion. So the introduction, general purpose statement or thesis statement. Then you have the body, point 1, 2, 3, right? And then you have your conclusion that summarizes the main points, right? So broken down into 3 chunks. Paragraphs are how we package information in business communication. The 3 elements of a paragraph are a topic sentence, right? And that goes back to the prior slides, right? Think about it, the body sentences. That's the meat of the document. And then the conclusion sentence, which should relate to and further emphasize the topic sentence. 4 basic types of sentences. Declarative, you're invited to join us for lunch. I declare that you're invited to come with us. Imperative, please join us for lunch. Interrogative, would you like to join us for lunch? Asking the question. And exclamatory, I'm so glad you can join us for lunch, right? So there's different basic types of sentences. Compound and complex sentences may use 2 or more of the 4 basic types of combinations. And this, you'll see how these build upon each other. So simple sentence, sales have increased, right? That's a statement. Let's just say it's a fact. Sales have increased. Compound sentence, sales have increased, and the compound is the and part, profits continue to grow. Complex sentence, sales have increased, and we have the sales staff to thank for it, right? This is why the sales have increased. We have the sales staff to thank for it. Now, compound complex sentence, so that's all these combined. Although the economy has been in recession, right? Although sales have increased, right? Back to here. And we have the sales staff to think of it, to thank for it, right? So we have our simple sentence, then we have our compound, we have our complex as well. So now we have our compound, complex sentence all together down here at the bottom. Sentences should be clear, concise, and brief, right? Shouldn't be run on. Be complete and not fragmented. Avoid being vague and focus on specific content. Avoid needless complexity, right? You have to put in so many verbose words in there that people don't understand what you're talking about. Avoid bureaucratic language and avoid repetition. Same thing, saying it over and over again to add more words or add more space. Now on these, I want you guys to pause the video. I want you to read these on your own. All I would do is read them too, because it's just giving you the bureaucratic phrase, and we're gonna do this throughout the lecture a few times. Bureaucratic phrase, and then the standard English alternative. So at the present time, now and today is as opposed to saying at the present time, it's either now or today. Concerning the matter of, it's regarding or about. So I want you to pause it, go through all of these, straight down, look at what I want you to do is look at the bureaucratic phrase, and then look at the standard English alternative, and make that comparison between the two. And then when you look to use these, due to the fact that, just say because or since or as. Transitions, bridges between ideas, thoughts, or concepts, words, phrases, or visual devices that help the audience to follow their speaker's ideas, right? Because you want them to follow you from place to place. Connect the main points to each other, connect the dots, and see the relationship in a speech. Same thing with this. I want you to pause this one. I'm not going to go through each one, but I want you to read the type. Then I want you to read the definition. Then I want you to read the example. And these are really good to know and understand and further emphasize your baseline about the topic, because these are really good just to actually see what type, the definition, and example. And I'll go over the first one. So internal preview is a brief statement referring to a point you are going to make, right? It's a point that you're going to make that you haven't made yet. It can forecast, and forecast is the main word, or foreshadow a main point in your document. An example, if we look ahead to, right? So if we look ahead to, I haven't stated what it is yet, but if we look ahead to chapter 5, I'm going to be talking about this, right? So if we look ahead to, next we'll examine, now we can focus our attention on, first we'll look at, then we'll examine, right? So that's leading you into something else. So I want you to read the types, all of these, the definitions, and the examples. Feel free to just pause the video, look at it, or you can look at it in the PowerPoint that's attached as well. So same thing with these, type, definition, examples. So for instance, similarity, a transition by similarity draws a parallel between two ideas, concepts, or examples. It can indicate a common area between points of the audience, points for the audience. So in the same way, by the same token, equally, similarly, just as we have seen, in the same vein. So those are all phrases that you can use that will show you similarity, right? These things are actually really, really good. When you're writing documents, you should really, pay attention to these and probably look over them before you write an actual document. And I'm telling you that your teachers will be, they'll be impressed by your writing capabilities. Number 11 through 14, same thing. I want you to look at the examples, right? And I want you to look at the definition, then the example. And this one, don't let it throw you off. Examples is a transition as well. Transition by example illustrates the connection between a point and example or examples. In fact, as we can see, after all, even, for example, for instance, right? Those are the example ones. So pause it on this slide too. Make sure you read the type, the definition, and the examples. All right, writing style. The manner in which a writer addresses the reader, the voice and the tone. A lot of times if you write things a certain way, it will come off in a not a great tone. It involves qualities of writing such as the vocabulary, figures of speech, phrasing, rhythm. A lot of times, people don't understand rhythm is not only in dancing, rhythm is in writing, it's in speaking, it's in everything. You just in track and field. I tell my daughters that all the time. Sentence structure, also very, very important as well. And paragraph length, you don't want them so long that people start to lose their train of thought on what you're writing about. Also, formal versus informal. So formal styles require more detail. They adhere to rules of etiquette. They avoid contractions and folksy expressions. But you have informal style. They reflect on everyday speech patterns, right? Really informal, laid back, type of communication. May include contractions and colloquial expressions. Choose a specific style of writing. Keep in mind the audience, right? So you remember who your audience is when you're speaking. Don't let it go over their head. You want it to resonate in their brain and or in their heart so they know and understand what you're referring to. Conversational tone in writing is one option in business communication, right? Resembles oral communication in style, tone, and word choice, right? Have you ever seen that? I asked you this question, right? They say certain things that makes it more conversational. Direct pattern states the main purpose directly at the beginning, right? So that thesis or the introduction, that's what you're going to say. Hey, here's my main purpose. Little room for misinterpretation because I'm coming straight down the middle and I'm telling you exactly what I'm trying to do. Use when you expect a positive response. An indirect pattern, right? Now I'm going a roundabout way to, refer to certain things. States the main idea after the opening paragraph. Can be used to get the attention of uninterested audience, right? So, I'm interested audience, so you say it to me direct and I come right there. But indirect, like it might be necessary for people who are not necessarily interested in the topic or the product and or service. It's used when you do not expect a positive response. That's when you use the indirect pattern. Adding emphasis. Emphasis is added to a word, phrase, or statistic so that it stands out from the surrounding text, right? So you want to add that emphasis, that umph to it. Do not use visual effects just for the sake of decoration. Emphasis can be influenced by your choice of font, right? If it's super bold and red, galactic red, or something like that, they're going to look at things differently in relation to if you did it and it was just in black, regular Arial 12 font or something like that. You can vary the emphasis according to where you place your information within a sentence and also the punctuation. Maximum emphasis. Sales have increased across the United States because of our latest promotion efforts in our largest and most successful market. So maximum emphasis is that sales have increased, and this is exactly why. Medium emphasis is because of our latest promotion efforts in our largest and most successful market, sales have increased across the United States, right? So still strong, but not as strong as maximum emphasis. And then minimum emphasis is the United States, which has experienced a sales increase, is our largest and most successful market. We're not going to get into the basics about how well we've done. Active versus passive voice. So active voice, a sentence structure in which the subject carries out the action, right? Subject is me, I carry out the action. Example, all sales are processed daily by McKinsey, right? So all the sales orders are processed daily, and then it's daily, it's done by McKinsey. A passive voice, however, is a sentence structure in which the subject receives the action. So McKinsey processes all sales orders daily, right? So we're saying the same thing, but we're just putting emphasis at a different part of the sentence. So McKinsey processes all sales order daily. Doesn't really, make it individual to McKinsey. Sort of pulls her away from it when you put it at the beginning. But if you say all sales orders are processed daily by McKinsey, then the emphasis is on that individual because they're the ones doing it. Active sentences tend to be shorter, more precise, easier to understand. Passive sentences de-emphasize the doer of the action. So the person talking about McKinsey, in a passive sentence, it de-emphasizes the doer of the action, which is McKinsey. Avoid personal references or personal pronouns. And it creates a more objective tone. So it could be McKinsey, could be John, could be Shirley, just more objective in terms of that. So same thing with this. And this is so good that I was like, man, I need to, show this for things that are for English class, not just business writing. So if you check this out, I want you to press pause or look at the PowerPoint, however you do it, but I want you to go through each of these. I know you might say, it's silly, I know this, I understand it, I have a good grasp on the English language. However, there are things that we all need to go back over. So I want you 1 through 5 on this page. Accept or accept. It shows that people make a mistake on accept. The office will accept applications until 5 p.m. on the 31st. Not accept with the E, but accept with the A. Attendance is required for all employees except supervisors. So we're excluding. And I want you to see how it goes. Number 1, and then you want to fill in the blank with that one. And then this part right here on number 1, then you want to fill in the blank with that one. And then by doing that, you now understand the difference between the two. Not that you didn't already understand, but if you ever struggle with that, that definitely will help you out, right? So that's 1 through 5. I want you to pause and do it. And then I want you to go to the next slide and pause it on this one as well. Number 6 through 10. Same thing when you want to take, then and then. That's the main one that people get mixed up all the time. You want to put then in there, and you want to put then in there, and you want to know and understand how these things work. So pause this one as well and go through 6 through 10. Same thing with 11 through 15. Pause it, go through it, learn it, understand it. It will help you. I guarantee you it'll help you immensely in the workplace. Making errors at the speed of light. Remember the following before you click send, right? There are a lot of things that we've been talking about, like before you hit that send button, make sure you're doing the right thing. Everything you access via an employer system is subject to inspection. Everything you write or record reflects you and your business or organization, even if it's stored in a Google or Yahoo account, right? You're a representative of the company. People are looking at the company through a lens through you. And if you don't paint a pretty picture, it's going to be a problem. Respect personal space by not forwarding every email that you think is funny. That will get you in trouble. I can guarantee it. I've seen it happen before. I've seen people get fired. And just from forwarding an email, not even from opening it up. Use a concise but relevant and informative phrase for the subject line. Email the receiver before sending large attachments, as they may exceed the limit of the receiver's inbox. I don't think that one's so necessary, but you do want to give a heads up, and you should. If you're sending something over that large, you should be in communication with this individual. Attach your intended attachments, right? So make sure that attachments, a lot of times we get things like, hey, there was no attachment on this document, so it's a big whoops. Making an argument. When you make an argument in your writing, present your position with logical points, right? Boop, 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 bullet points, numbers, whatever you do. Support each point with appropriate sources. Present your argument in a way that does not take or make the audience defensive, right? You want to get them on your side. You don't want to make them defensive. Same thing with this classical rhetorical strategy. I want you to press pause, and then I want you to go over these. Exordium prepares the audience to consider your argument, right? So this is the prep work. Then number 2 is narration, provides the audience with the necessary background or context for your argument, because there could be different, contexts in which something happened, which can make it totally different. So I want you to pause it, read those 6, read what they mean on the right side, and then you can unpause it and move forward from there. Then you come here, 3-part rhetorical strategy. So you have your claim, your data, and your warrant. So the claim, your statement of belief or truth. The example, it is important to spay or neuter your pet, right? The data is your supporting reasons for the claim. Millions of unwanted pets are euthanized every year, right? So, that's the clarification for that. And then you have the warrant. You create the connection between the claim and the supporting reasons. So here's a claim, here's the supporting reasons. I'm going to make the connection for all of you. Pets that are spayed or neutered do not reproduce, preventing the production of unwanted animals, right? You see how we tie that all together. That's another one. Pause it there. Read it, learn it, understand it. Argument by generalization, argument by analogy. These are effective argumentation strategies. Don't go use this on your boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, whoever. Argument by generalization, argument by analogy, argument by sign, argument by consequence, argument by authority, by principle, testimony. They're all there. So this same thing with this. I want you to pause and I want you to read through this. So generalization, whatever is true of a good example or sample would be true of everything like it or the population it came from. The example is, if you can vote, drive, and die for your country, you should also be able to buy alcohol, right? So you can do all these things at 18, but you can't buy alcohol until you're 21. So over in the evaluation, the STAR system, for it to be reliable, we need sufficient number of, and then T is for typical, A for accurate, and R is for reliable. And it'll provide you with examples. So same thing on this one. I want you to pause it. I want you to read it. I want you to understand it. Hopefully you don't get, back to that without, or to the next slide without having a full understanding. If you get to this slide right here, or this box right here, and you don't understand it, then go back to, go back to G generalization and learn and understand a little bit more. So same thing with these, argument by, and it tells you this is the type of argument, this is a claim, these are the examples, and this is evaluation, right? Argument by principle, right? An accepted or proper truth. We know that's the truth. The change in drinking age was never put to a vote. It's not about alcohol. It's about our freedom of speech in a democratic society, right? And then you have your evaluation of the statement, right? So you go through each one of those. Evidence must be supportive, relevant, effective. You have evidence. It needs to be those things, or else it'll get stricken from the record if you're in a court case. Appealing to emotions. Emotion is a psychological and physical reaction, such as fear or anger, to stimuli that we experience as a feeling. Emotions have an impact on everything: our point of view, our readiness to communicate, how, why, and when we say things. Our emotions have an impact on all of those things. How we hear and what we hear. If we have that selective hearing, I only want to hear the things that I want to hear. That can have an impact on what you hear. Emotional resistance occurs when the audience gets tired, often to the point of rejection, of hearing messages that attempt to elicit an emotional response, right? So every time I come into the store, I see a thing or an ad and it's trying to, pull on my, emotional strings and get me to say, oh, well, let me, donate some money to PETA because all these dogs are, homeless, and they need help and they need money, right? So I'm putting up emotional resistance, right? Because I have something to go do, but that's what they're pulling on. They're pulling on the emotion that you may feel from watching the commercial. So recognizing fallacies, false logic, they deceive your audience with their style, drama, or pattern, add little in terms of substance, right? So it's not really, you're just putting stuff out there to say, hey, we're working on things. But if it's false, even by a little bit, it still deceives your audience. It is best to avoid them altogether as they detract from your effectiveness. So again, on fallacy, same thing. Come in, press pause on this slide, and you're going to see what the fallacy is or what it's called. Then you're going to look at the definition and the example, right? So straw man, a weak argument set up to easily refute and distract attention from stronger arguments. So I'm going to set you up with this little weak argument, and you're going to just jump all over it. And then on the other side, I'm going to say, hey, I got argument B, and that's really the one that I want to work with. So look at the idea that criminals who commit murder should be released after a few years of rehabilitation. Think of how unsafe our streets would be then, right? So I want you to definitely read the fallacy, the definition, and the example. I'll probably go back and, look into this a little bit further myself because I think it's very, very interesting. And 5 through 8 on this one. So first page is 1 through 4. Second page is 5 through 8. Same thing. You have the fallacy, you have the definition, you have the example. And then ethical considerations and persuasions as you prepare and present your persuasive message. These are things not to do. Use false, fabricated, misrepresented, distorted, or irrelevant evidence to support arguments or claims. Intentionally use unsupported, misleading, or illogical reasoning. Just because you saw it on Google doesn't mean it's right or correct. Represent yourself as informed or an expert on a subject when you are not. So definitely don't want to, represent that you are that person when that's actually not the case. Use irrelevant appeals to divert attention from the issue at hand. That's just kind of, some people do that. They just kind of gloss over certain things and then they say, I'll respond to that when I like to. Ethical considerations and persuasion. Ask your audience to link your idea or proposal to emotion-laden values, motives, or goals to which it is actually not related. Which, is a lot of words for, not the greatest idea, right? Because you look at it, it says link your idea or proposal to emotion-laden values. They're emotion-laden, and that means there's a problem. They're not, necessarily thought out all the way logically. Deceive your audience by concealing your real purpose, your self-interest, the group you represent, or your position as an advocate of a viewpoint, right? So is it that you really believe in this, or you believe in the money that it's going to provide you? Distort, hide, or misrepresent the number, scope, intensity, or undesirable features of consequences or effects. Use emotional appeals that lack a supporting basis of evidence or reasoning, and you can find plenty of those. Argue any side on the internet. Oversimplify complex gradation laden situations into simplistic, two-valued, either or polar views of or choices, right? So you also don't want to dumb things down too much, right? Because you have to know and understand that you're going to make educated or have an educated conversation, but you don't want to take it up too high, and don't want to take it up too or take it down too low. Pretend certainty where tentativeness and degree of probability would be more accurate. Advocate something that you yourself do not believe in, right? If you don't believe in something, then you shouldn't be out there speaking about it. Verbatim, this comes into play with plagiarism, word for word. A lot of people just copy and paste these days. But paraphrase, we'll call them the overachiever of this bunch, to rewrite information in your own words. And when I say rewrite them in your own words, that means that you are actually thinking about this, reading it, understanding, and then writing it out, not just taking it word for word and translating. You want to rewrite the information in your own mindset and go from scratch, which is quite fun. Steps that can help you paraphrase a passage while respecting its original author. Read the passage out loud, pay attention to the complete thought and not to the individual words, right? So you want to have this holistic view of what they're reading. Explain the concept in your own words to a friend or colleague out loud, face to face, right? So I have no problem with explaining the concept face to face, but if it was one that's maybe not on the up and up, then maybe you do. So again, explain the concept in your own words, and should have that underlying own words to a friend or colleague. You want to say it in your verbiage, not the verbiage that you see written anywhere else. Write the concept in your own words and add some more to illustrate examples of the concept and that are meaningful to you. So paraphrasing, regard the original passage and see how your version compares. Reread the original passage and see how your version compares with it in terms of grammar, word choice, example, and conveyance of meaning. So a lot of times you'll see that people who aren't so far into it, they actually do a lot better at this. So I'll be interested to take yours and look at yours and see what I came up with as well. Do not translate one word to another for the original passage, right? So I remember saying that, just a little bit behind, but you don't want to just translate word from word from the original passage. Once your expression of the concept can stand on its own merit, include it in your document and cite the original author as the source of the data. So summary versus plagiarism. Summarize to reduce a concept, idea, or data. Set it to its most basic point or element. Plagiarism, representing another's work as your own. Plagiarism and patch writing destroy your professional credibility. People wonder, well, what else could he do, or what could he do next if this is the type of behavior that he presents now. Fail to uphold common professional standards. Always give credit when you represent others' ideas, thoughts, and concepts. And that is it for chapter 6. So as always, I want you to make sure that you complete your quiz, any assignments that are due. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll be glad to assist. But as always, I want you all to have a good day and a great week, and make sure to contact me if you need any assistance. Thanks a lot.